Today at the Wild Dog Arcade, Alien Pinball gets a bit more flashy. Welcome to the Wild Dog Arcade. I'm Gary, and today I'm going to be installing a couple of modifications on our Alien Pinball machine. Both of the mods I'm going to show you today are sold by Pinball Brothers themselves, so they are actually integrated into the game. First kit is the beacon kit. This is similar to what you would see in Getaway or F-14 Tomcat. There are two beacons and they get mounted to the top of the back box. They flash during the game, let everybody know you're doing really well. The second kit is also related to flashers, and that is a series of plastics that actually have flashers installed in them. So these go off and light up during different parts of the game. So well integrated. Both of these mods should increase the immersion in the game, make you feel like you're in the Aliens movie at the end with the loader. First thing I'm going to do is walk you through what's included in each one of these two kits. This is the beacon kit here, and it comes with two beacons. Wires are already attached to them, already got the connectors on them. A wiring harness to attach it to the control box, and a bag of screws. This should be a fairly easy part of the install. The other one will definitely be more comprehensive. Okay, these are the parts that come with what they call the flasher kit. As you can see, it's got a series of plastic parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different plastic parts, and it actually has 6 different flashers. These flashers are not in the original game, so they're going to be adding to the immersion in the game. It's also got a control board for them, an Ethernet cable, wiring harness, zip ties, and screws. As you can see, it's a lot more involved. It does require you to take apart part of the top of the playfield, so the installation will take a bit longer, and I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's done. Okay, when I was cleaning up, I actually found this in the very bottom of the box. This is actually a template for drilling and mounting the beacons. It also came with another bag of screws that were well hidden as well, so I could have used these instead of drilling with bolts. But I'm happy with my results, so you can do what you want to do here. Okay, so the beacon kit's relatively easy to install. There are 3 holes you're going to have to drill. They come with bolts and nuts to go through. More importantly is there's a wire that comes out of the back, so you have your choice. You can either lay it on the side and then run it around back into these vents, pop out the vent, or drill a hole in the vent and run the wire around the outside. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole so that this connector passes directly into the back box. I just kind of want to make this as invisible as possible. So I'm going to drill a hole. I'm going to be using a unibit. I found a unibit that is big enough to allow the connector to pass through, but not too huge. So for me, I'm going to drill that hole, then I will place and mark the additional holes that I need to drill for the actual bolts. As you can see here, I've already pre-marked the holes for the wires on both sides. All right, so that's one hole there. That should pass the connector through. So when I go down to screw them down, it should pop right in there. I'm going to do the other side, and then I'll mark the hole pattern, and then bolt them down, and then I'll be able to move on to the inside and the wiring. Okay, I have marked the holes where I need to drill. I used a punch and then a paint marker to highlight them so I can see and you can see them. I'm going to drill the pilot holes now for the bolts and nuts, and then I'll be able to assemble them in the down position with a little bit of spacing going on up here. So I found a drill bit that was slightly larger than the screw, and I'm just going to drill all 6 holes. All right, 6 holes. All right, off camera I went and bolted the beacons on there. I actually found the original screws were too short. They wouldn't fit through the beacon and through the back box into the back box. So I luckily have a whole bunch of screws and nuts and other hardware in bins in the other room. So I was able to find ones that would let me bolt this on. Positioning, that's one thing. You can put them pretty much wherever you want. You can put them close together, you can put them out here, it's your choice. I wanted them as far forward as possible, so what I ended up doing was putting these nuts in from the back side on the top two, but on the front one, I actually put the screw in from the back side and I put the nut on the top. Now it is visible on the front. Now I'm going to go in later and just paint it black, but I wanted them as far forward. You can put them anywhere. Just keep in mind, there is a channel in here where the back box art slides into. Make sure you don't put that bolt right where that is, otherwise you'll never get the back box artwork in there. All right, the next step in the process is routing the wires from the beacons down into the cabinet, because the wires have to go into the bottom, because then they'll hook into the cabinet controller box and stuff down there. So the wires come out on each side. I've got them routed to the middle, down, and slightly to the left so that they feed out the left side hole down in the bottom. What I've got is a bunch of stick-on zip tie anchors, and then I've zip tied them in a nice array to keep them nice and neat. Remember, don't tighten your zip ties too tight. You don't want to crimp the wire and cause a signal loss or a short in the wire. So just snug is all fine. But I basically, I used 7 of those anchors. You can get those anchors anywhere, Amazon, your local electronics store, whatever, wherever you want to get them. So, but I have a big bag I always keep around for working on projects like this. Okay, the final step in hooking up your beacons into your alien kit is you're going to want to attach these 2 wires, which you have routed from the back box. I pulled them into a harness and zip tied them together to kind of keep them in one lump to make it easier. The included wiring harness will have 4 connectors. One is a 4-pin connector, and the other 3 are 2-pin connectors. Basically, they're just all running wires, so when the beacons fire, it puts voltage to them. Take the 4-pin connector, plug it into the middle of these 3, and that is the one for the beacons. Then grab the connectors from the beacons and hook them up into the mini harness, and we'll be good. That should be it. So the next time I fire the game up, we should have beacons working on the back box. So just tuck your wires back, make sure your slack's in the back, so you can pull down your back box without getting the wires too tight. Next up, I will be starting on the flasher kit. All right, now we're moving on to the flasher kit installation, and that's going to require some disassembly of parts in the Playfield to install the parts up here to provide the flasher. So first thing you want to do is on the left side, the Wayland return lane, we need to start disassembling it. So I've got a 7mm wrench and a T20 Torx driver. So we're going to hit these 11 bolts. We're going to have to remove the top. So it's basically going to be a lot of wash, rinse, repeat here. All right, so this will just lift off and you can remove it, put it to the side. You will not be using this again. Just keep it someplace safe if you ever want to return to stock. All right, the next step is to remove this whole lower piece. There are 7 fasteners to do that. You got 2 T20 Torx screw heads here, and then you got 3 T15. And then you've got a 7mm nut on each one of those, which is stacked on top of a bunch of hex eggs. So I'll start with the nuts. I just get a 1/4-inch wrench to hold the post from turning a lot while I'm doing this, and then I'll remove all these. And I like to make sure I put the nuts in a pocket or a bin while I'm working on it, and so I don't lose all of these things. T15, these things are flexible enough for you to be able to kind of push them out of the way. These are actually just screws, they're not machine threads. Just screw into the wood side rails. This should, at this point, lift right off. I'm going to be careful because I got some washers still on here. I don't want to lose them in the Playfield. All right, that is off. Next up is we're going to remove the shooter guide here, and that's there are 2 Torx head screws here, and then there are 2 nuts on the bottom side of the Playfield. The bottom side of the Playfield, you'll need a 7mm nut driver or wrench, and this will use a T20. Let's just double check that. Yes, T20. So first I'll start by removing the underside, and then we'll do the top. All right, and that just lifts off, and you can take it out, remove it, and save it for a reinstall. All right, now we need to remove the next layer of the Yutani lane here. And so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws and 2 posts you got to remove. And it'll be just removing this gray piece right here. So first thing I'm going to do is take my wrenches and remove these standoff posts that hold the shooter rod. Now I'm going to take a T20, and that's what the head size on all of these bolts are. I need to hold the post underneath and undo them, just like I did all the other ones. I'm going to crack them loose and then run them off. All right, plastic's loose. On to the next step. All right, there's one more piece of plastic after the shooter lanes you need to remove. It's the Headley Hope piece of plastic. There are 2 screws in here. This one allows you to access to a hole in the playfield to pass the wires through. So it's easy to remove. Just unscrew it, put it out of the way. You'll be reusing this piece of plastic. And down inside there is the hole. Okay, the next step in the removal process is to remove this long back right piece. So there are 3 screws on this one. There's going to be one in the front. It's a T15. There's one in the middle. It's a T20. And the one in the back is also a T15. So those 3 will pull that entire little subassembly off. So whole assembly comes off and then put it to the side. Okay, the last piece that we need to remove to prepare for the flasher installation is this back right corner piece. There are a total of 6 fasteners, 1 in the corner, 4 out in the middle, and then there is a nut that you have to remove. I'm going to start with the T15 Torx driver, which is hidden in the corner, which you can't see here. And then there's a 7mm nut and 4 T20 screws. These 2 in the middle are actually very long screws. They actually capture the in lane. So when you remove it, the in-lane guide is going to fall loose. It's made up of 3 pieces. It's a guide and 2 posts. They're actually loose, so you'll have to pay attention when you put it back together that you get them in the right directions. They line up. Okay, we're going to start to put the flasher kit on. I'm starting with the Wayland lane. This is the new part that comes in. It's got the flashers. This one's going to be a little bit finicky because we got 3 different sets of wires that need to route along the outside, but then they need to duck into this little groove and then down through the hole that is right behind this one. So it's going to be kind of a bit of fiddly reinstall, but we'll get to it. All right, this is going to be a little bit finicky, so just bear with us all here today. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start one of these here just to kind of keep them held together so I can rotate it and then get at some of the things. Next step is to kind of grab the wires and try to bundle them, because you're going to have to lift this and feed 3 different wires down inside the playfield, which is going to get a little fun. So we're going to drop them in and try to pull them through. Bring them back into place, so that'll be good for the moment. So right now my wires are routed on the outside of things. We'll end up zip tying some of this stuff together, but that will allow me to get this all attached. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and attach these bottoms 3 screws. So those are screwing right into the wood. So in your stash of hardware that you saved, grab the correct ones. I always try to use a washer on everything to keep things from breaking or cracking. So I'm going to start these 3 underneath and then move on to attaching the top, and then I will zip tie everything together. All right, now I want to move on to the T20s and the 2 7mm nuts over here. So again, washers on everything, If you don't have enough washers or if some are missing from your game, add them if you got them. Okay, I've actually spent some time here to route these wires. So what you do is you run the wire kind of on the outside edge, and then you zip tie it to the post. Then when you get over here, you're zip tying 2 of them to a post, zip tie these 2 together, and then once they get over to this post, zip tie all 3 of these together. There's enough clearance in here, so you shouldn't need to worry about braiding it. If you're really worried, you can always put a piece of something over there to protect it. So now I'm just gonna go and remove my zip tie ends so that it's nice and clean. There, and that's the completion of the install of the Wayland lane with the flasher. So this one's gonna have 3 flashers on it. Okay, we're gonna replace the shooter lane plastic here. It's got a similar thing. It's got 1 wire that's gonna run along the outside. The difference here is it's going to duck into this hole, but not go directly through the playfield. You gotta feed it down along the rail to go down into the hole over here under the Hadley Hope plastic that we took off. It's not too difficult. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna feed that wire into the hole so that way I can stretch it along and get it out of the way while I tighten down the plastic. So it's pretty easy. Just feed it through, pull it fairly loose, and then start tightening. Now you do remember during the disassembly we had 2 long posts that we have to put back on because that's where the shooter lane is attached to drop it into here. So let's get going. Okay, that's the plastic put back on. I got the posts on. I can do the shooter lane next and do some wire routing. I'll probably do the wire routing first and then put the shooter back on before we move on to the end. All right, I've routed the wires per the instructions. So basically come down, out, duck under, all the way around and in. So I've used 3 zip ties, 1 here on this first post, 1 on the corner, and 1 on the back before it goes into the playfield. So there is that. So that's the routing. Now what I can do is come in here, tuck the wire down inside and put the other piece of plastic on that covers it up, and then that front half will be done, and then I'll move on to the back side over here. All right, in order to finish up the front, I need to put the shooter lane back in. So the shooter lane has threads on the bottom. They stick through the bottom of the playfield. I put some nuts on it, and then it's got 2 screws or 2 bolts up here. So drop it through, line it up. Let's get some screws to put in. So for the front, and then I'll go underneath and actually do the other ones. All right, got to get it in the right spot. All right, so I'm gonna go underneath and actually tighten up 2 nuts because there are 2 posts that stick through. Make sure on the bottom side, since it is the shooter lane, it does take quite a bit of abuse. Make sure you have oversized washers under there, you know, because it's gonna dig into the wood. The smaller it is, the worse it'll probably get over time. So good washer, distribute the load quite a bit and you'll be much better off. All right. So the shooter lane has these bolts that come through here at the bottom of the shooter lane, so the threads stick through. You can see me moving it up and down. What you need is a washer and a nut on each one of those. As you can see there, one of the washers is still installed. That's because they have a tendency to dig into the wood, and I didn't want to pry that one off, so I left it there. It stayed during this install. So I'm going to put a nut on there. These are nylock nuts that Pinball Brothers had put on there originally. I'm going to put another washer, another nut, and then tighten these suckers down. All right, shooter lane installed. Okay, we're at the next stage of this install. I'm gonna choose to put the back corner piece in. this piece that goes down in here first. But there's a couple of things. This wire, this long skinny cable, Pinball Brothers wanted to have you route it out the very back and around the cabinet. I decided not to do that. What I did is I looked underneath very carefully. I realized I could drill a hole right in the playfield. There's a metal plate to one side and a mechanism on the other. There's a hole that I could do. So I used a unibit and actually drilled a new hole. So that way my wire can go through the playfield and drop straight out the bottom instead of being potentially pinched in the back side. Let's move on to the installation of this part. So the first thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to drop it down through the playfield so that way I can start the rest of the installation. So in the end, this will end up sitting in here like this. So just as the reverse of the install, the one key thing you got to remember is you have to assemble the lane guide here, and you do that with these long bolts. So basically each long bolt goes through each post. So these are all loose. So this is going to be a little bit of a trick to get that in there, because you need to drop it into the holes. And I'm going to do is I've got them lined up. I will start each one of these things when I find it lining up properly. Just get it started so I can start each one of these screws. So these are the two funny ones, because you need to provide a little piece of plastic in the two posts here so that way the lane guide works properly. So there are a couple of other screws that you're going to do. There's going to be a wood tap screw right in the back corner, which is a T15. The posts that I just installed were T20s. So this is essentially there we go, got it. Get that one started. This one is a machine screw, this is a nut, and this is a machine screw. So all the machine screws seem to have T20 heads, whereas the wood screws have a T15 head. So keep that in mind, you always need a T15 and a T20 Torx driver handy. So this gets me a couple of those. So those are started. Now I got to get my nut and a washer. So washer and a nut. I always use washers on everything plastic just to help try to keep the plastic from getting cracked. Now I'm going to tighten everything down. Okay, that completes the installation of this back corner. So now there's a flasher in this corner. It's dropped straight through the playfield, so I'll be able to easily route the wire to the board that I got to put in later. Next up, we'll be replacing the original side rail here with a flasher based set. So it looks really similar. The biggest thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to reassemble all these parts onto the new plastics, because I need these little standoffs and the screws. That will make a little assembly that will drop right in here with the new flasher. Alright, I have reassembled the side rail, so the next thing you want to do is drop the wire in through the hole where you passed the other wire that you did a little earlier. So reach under, pull the wire through. So, and then we're going to attach this part. So this has 3 screws, one here and one on each end. The little end ones are some of the wood screws. So again, washer and wood screw. And first thing we will do is start some of the screws. And the Start with this one. We'll get it just going into here a little bit. Just kind of hold it in place. And then grab the other tool. So that's a T20. These two are T15s. And it just goes into the end. Don't over tighten those two on the end because they're just in the wood. Don't want to strip them out, otherwise then you got to find a bigger screw and hope you don't crack anything. So tighten the middle one down and then we're done with this step. The last thing you need to do on the top side is you need to put the Hadley's Hope plastic in there. What I've done is I'm going to just insert it in like this. Reach around, it's flexible so you can get it in there afterward and not have to really worry about getting it to fit. So it'll drop in and then there will be 2 machine screws with T20s that you need to put in to secure this plastic. Okay, with the Hadley's Hope plastic in, that completes the installation of everything on the top side of the playfield. Now we're going to go underneath and hook up the electronics package. Okay, I've taken the liberty of installing the new control board for the flashers onto the bottom of the playfield. Basically, you're going to be putting it right above board 8 and off to the side. So there's a few wires we're going to have to hook up. Some of the power, some of the communication ones. So first thing you want to do is take the power connector off of this board right here, right next to it, slot it into the left connector, put it in there. Then they've included a jumper for power, so you plug that into the other connector right on the other side. Got the wrong one. So it should snap right in. And then that replaces the power connection to this board right over here. That completes that. Now, here's the problem I found with the kit in this next step. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be jumpering into these Ethernet connections. And they want you to take this one, plug it in over here. But as you can see, this cable is way too short for that. Luckily, I happen to have a patch cable in my stash of wires. So I'm going to replace this short one for right now with a patch cable. Specifically, it's got to be a patch cable that goes into it. So it's going to be plugging in to this one. It's going to be connecting over to this one. I'll route the wires nice and neatly later. So that's going to patch those two. Unfortunately, I wish I had a shorter one, but I don't. And then there is another cable that we're going to have to be putting in when I find where I put it. All right, they did include one longer cable in the kit, which is going to connect into this port and jumper over to this board right here. And this I will put back in the original restrainer to hold that there. So this cable connects to that, that one's there. So next up we'll be connecting some of the actual connections. So there were 5 little connectors that were coming from all the flashers. They've actually color coded them. So green, yellow, and they've actually, you might not be able to see this, but they have actually color coded the connectors that they're supposed to hit to. So what I can do is find the right one. These are going to be little tight little connectors. So be careful when you're pushing and doing that to make sure you don't break it. There's yellow. Green, and then there are 3 from the left side, and we've got red, which is in the far left corner, blue, which is over on the left side as well, and then the last little connector, when I get it out of this, fished out of here, is orange. And that will go in right here. So that's the little connectors. There's still this ribbon cable that you got from the back right, and then it actually has its own style connector, so there isn't really any way you can mess this one up. Basically, it's just going to go into this larger header right here on the board. So that's all the connections you've got to make this thing work. Basically, it'll tie into the game. Now, what I'm going to go do is clean up my wiring here, zip tie it, and make it a lot neater. All right, with the wiring all cleaned up underneath, I've put the Playfield back down. Now we're going to get ready to start it and watch and make sure that the flashers are working. So hold on to your butts. Oop, got a flash. All right, so game's booting. So we're going to be watching for the beacons and any of the flashers on the Playfield that come on during the startup sequence. So here we go. Whoop, got flasher, we got beacons. Here we go. I am in the test menu testing the lights and now looking at some of the nice flashers. Well, that wraps up our installation of the beacon and flasher kits here on Alien. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Also, if you like live gameplay, please watch us on Twitch at twitch.tv/WildDogArcade. We're also on all sorts of social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky as Wild Dog Arcade as well. We let everybody know what we're playing that night when we post videos and things like that, so definitely give us a follow there. Again, thanks for watching this video. Have a great day.